Hi, I'm Patricia Greenberg, and welcome to It's Okay to Be Old, a show about all things aging well. My guest today is Jerry Glazer, and he's the author of Vietnam Uncensored 365 Days and a Nightmare. And it's the account of one man's experience from 1967 to 1968 serving in the Vietnam War. Welcome, Jerry.
Thank you very much, Patricia. Appreciate it.
Jerry, I invited you on the show today because it's really important to me to have older adults come on to talk about experiences that they've had in their lives that are personally significant, but widely misunderstood by the general population. I want to start out by saying that this book is life-changing. For anyone who doesn't have an understanding of history or how the military operates and the strategies implemented during wartime that don't make sense to civilians, Jerry, you did a beautiful job. Even with all the insanity, you did a beautiful job of explaining how that works. And you brilliantly told your story through a memoir that reads like a novel, and
Mm.
yet it gives us a history lesson and an insider's view to the inner workings of the military on a day-to-day, need-to-know level. I've interviewed a lot of people with trauma of all kinds, and everyone's experience is different, even among wounded veterans. So starting from the beginning, you were living your life and then you got drafted. Tell us what that was like.
I was a mutant from the draft when I was in college. And like many people, I believed the government that the war would be over in a heartbeat. You had a country that was two-thirds the size of California, no army, no navy, no air force to speak of. And the United States figured they would go in and just take it over. What history proved was that the Vietnamese had 1,000 years of people invading their country, and they were subjugated for 1,000 years. So they had been fighting for 1,000 years in the jungles. They have, just like you talk about today, Israel and Hamas and the tunnel network, that's what they had. They had a whole city underground. The United States wasn't prepared that for 20,000 enemy showing up to attack a installation, and then all when it's all over, everyone is gone, including the dead. Who's prepared for that? Can you be prepared? 5,000 Marines were attacked by 30,000 North Vietnamese. 30,000. I give credit to the Marines. An amazing military operation. They held off 30,000 people until reinforcements came they held them off, actually. I think a huge amount of people died in that. So who was prepared for any of that?
Right.
Worse than that, the United States thought that the enemy was hiding in the jungle and you couldn't get them. So what did they do? They went to find the enemy. They flew us out in helicopters. You could hear that helicopter coming from 20 miles away. You think they didn't prepare for us? You don't think we went into a firefight and we landed, and then we walked into past a elephant grass, and all of a sudden the whole place opened up. The only film I ever saw, I might divert for a second, that made any sense to me about Vietnam was Forrest Gump.
Really?
Yeah, I'll tell you. You see Forrest Gump
Yeah, sure,
movie?
of course. Yeah.
There's one scene there that defines to me Vietnam. This is when everyone was injured. When he got injured and he
Mhm,
saved
mhm, mhm.
they were walking in elephant grass, and it's peaceful and it's quiet. And they're just walking to the middle of the elephant grass, and all of a sudden, everything happens. Fire it was an ambush. They walked right into an ambush. Now that was real. I jumped out of my seat when that happened. Just jumped. My heart jumped. I was racing. I was like out of my mind from that scene alone, because that scene was true.
Mhm.
That's the truest thing, the truest scene I've ever seen in any combat film that Hollywood ever produced. That was to the point. And that's what Vietnam was like. You didn't know when the enemy was going to come at you. There wasn't like they had an enemy front and you went and they had artillery. You never
Right.
knew. Every step you took in the jungle was a booby trap. Every tree, and I write about it often, every tree held the enemy. Every leaf Was every leaf vibrated? Was a good sign or a bad sign? The sky was blue. The sky was gray. What? Who the hell knew? And you had to move forward. You couldn't stand still. Standing still was a death sentence. We say, find you. The enemy was fearless and ferocious. And I give them credit. They were, but people don't understand that the Vietnamese were fighting for their freedom.
Yeah.
The United States was the attacker. The United States was the aggressor. There was no reason, and worse than everything, Ho Chi Minh was an ally of the U.S. during World War II. He helped the U.S. forces conquer the Japanese who had taken it over from the French, and he helped capture or rescue pilots and wounded servicemen in Vietnam, in Cambodia, in Laos. When the war was over, he fully expected that the United States would reward him and letting him achieve independence for his country instead of going back to France. So what did the United States do? He never understood that the United States would never negotiate with a communist. Not that he was wrong, he was right. He fought for his country. He wasn't against it. He was an ally to the United States. And the reason the United States went to war was to stop communist aggression in Southeast Asia. And so what happened after the war was over? Vietnam is a huge trading partner. China is a huge trading partner. Soviet Union was a huge trading partner. What communism? What were they talking about? So what's the biggest threat today? It's no longer communism. It's theocracies in the Middle East, a different type of enemy. So it seems to be the United States loves finding enemies and and one thing I can say, not that I'm going to say I'm for or against any administration, but at least this administration is not sending in troops. Every administration before this one now, they're sending in the boys to die.
Right.
No reason. There was no reason for Iraq, no reason for Afghanistan. What was our business there? What was our business there? What were we doing? What did we do in Vietnam except expire 58,000 wonderful, beautiful American boys, killed all of them, wounded another 150,000, 22,000 committed suicide, 300,000 suffered the effects of Agent Orange. Why did we do that? In Iraq, tell me Iraq, tell me what we accomplished in Iraq. We gave it back to the Muslims. What did we accomplish in Afghanistan? Gave it back to the Taliban. What's the United States, what the United States accept, did we take, when we won the war in Iraq, got rid of Saddam Hussein, did we take the oil fields over? God forbid the United States should do anything like that. We got nothing in return for anything we've done. Just send and Henry Kissinger, that SOB, I have no great love for this man, made this statement, and you have to hear this statement and you have to believe, you can look it up.
Mm-hmm.
U.S. armed forces, right, are dumb animals only to be used to achieve foreign policy.
That's what he said.
Exactly. You can. It's not a direct quote, but you can look it up. Henry Kissinger, a Vietnam quote.
So, Jerry, when you first got over there, did you see this as an adventure? You couldn't have had any understanding of this when you.
No, I got caught. I went into the draft, and the funny thing is, my parents, my family was living in Montreal. My family was living in Montreal. I could have come to Montreal anytime I wanted, and I came to Montreal, but I wasn't. I was already in the army, so they wanted me to stay. And that would be defection.
Okay.
That would be a deserter, not a draft dodger.
Okay.
And I decided I was going to fight for I was going to go and do what I needed to do. So I went into the service, and I was just I was the worst soldier that God created. If I tell you how bad I was, I mean, a typical thing about me was, everybody's running in the army, and I was the last one. And this statement is a true statement, defines who I was. Glazer, pick up your ass or we'll both be in the hospital. Both be in the hospital, drill sergeant? Yeah, I'm gonna have to operate to get my foot out of your ass. And that's a true statement. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't run. I had no strength. They had monkey bars to go into the mess hall, three monkey bars, and I was already in the ground.
Right, right.
So they came to, I would do anything to get out of basic training. I wrote it in the book. One day a Jeep shows up, and I didn't know that they were picking people to put together an airborne company, and they needed 12 men. So they came to our company, which I think maybe one of the first or second, and anybody want to volunteer to find out? Hey, me, I'll volunteer. I wasn't going to sign up for anything, but I want to find out about it. So you get out of basic training, coffee, donuts, blah, blah, blah. And I wound up, the minute I got out of the truck, the minute I said I was going to be okay, I'm going to volunteer, I was already picked.
Hmm.
I wasn't a volunteer. They were just picking guys that said okay. I said okay. And so I was an airborne. Now, man, you're talking about a whole different thing of training. I'm there with guys who dropped and did 50 push-ups. I'm there with guys who went 25 monkey bars and then did 50 push-ups. I had guys that were big as doors, like they were bouncers. I had this little tiny skinny Jewish kid with pimples. I had no idea. But what they did, which normal basic training didn't do, anybody who entered that training had to succeed.
Hmm.
In other words, they didn't take people into airborne training that you succeed or you don't succeed. You go through that training and you get it done. So if you weren't keeping up, they would put one man on you. So you had individual training. They would get a special guy, individual training to teach you. So if you didn't get it, and I didn't get anything, they would get someone to teach it to me. And as many times as I got it wrong, they teach it to me again. There was weekends. Sunday was a day off. I wasn't ever let off. I was taken for special training. I was taken to the gym, lift weights, climb ropes. They got me to such a way that I wound up not only succeeding, and they couldn't believe it, because all the guys who came with me dropped out. I'm the only one who succeeded. Because I didn't have the strength, but I had something that you absolutely positively needed. And it's the only thing that saved me: endurance and stamina.
Yeah.
I could have, did I know? I mean, those guys, big guys, they couldn't run the 5 miles fully loaded. Didn't matter to me. I mean, look, you do a parachute drop, you're carrying the parachute alone, and all your gear is like 80 pounds. You got to get on a plane, get off a plane, jump from a plane. I mean, I weighed 140 in those days. It's crazy.
So, having said that, did you find it easy or hard to submit to these commanding officers?
No, look, there is no easy or hard. You either do it or you're punished. I mean, it's
Ah,
military. You're in the military. There's no yes or no. It is, you're going to go here. Yes, sir. You don't say, well, why are we going there? You don't ask an officer
I
a
don't mean
question.
to laugh, but it's like you're not allowed to question, right? You're not.
No, questioning an officer is a crime.
Yeah. Wow.
No, you don't speak to an officer unless spoken to. You don't walk up to an officer, how are you doing, sir? You salute. You don't talk. If he talks to you and asks you a question, you can answer. But if he doesn't ask you a question, don't talk to him. That's already a misdemeanor, because the officer is the one who's in command. So if you're in the field, and remember something, you're in the field, and you're being ordered to walk into an enemy that's firing on you. Well, you see that all the time. These guys walk in and they die. They're being forced to go in. They're not being forced, they're being commanded. And the key in the Army is to make sure that the recruit understands that what you're told to do, you do. You just do what you're told. An officer, even though he's wrong, an officer who is stupid, an officer who's a maniac, who's insane, you have to do what he tells you to do. Unless, like us, we were on our own. We ran into all kinds of insane people. They would tell me what to do, but I worked for a general. My orders were firm. So if I wanted to disobey a captain, I disobeyed a captain. I disobeyed a Marine captain. He court-martialed me. I was court-martialed seven. Everybody was putting me in for court-martial.
Right. Yeah.
But the court-martial wound up in the hands of my general. My general just said to me, "Tell me if you did it or not." And I always said, I would never tell him I did it. I would say to him, "Absolutely not, sir."
Mhm.
Okay, tear it up. He didn't care whether I did it or not. He only cared about success.
Right, that his mission was accomplished.
His greatest idea was he came to Vietnam as a colonel. He wanted to become a general, and to become a general, he had to cater and pander to his buddies in Washington. At the end, he wanted to be promoted to a brigadier general, and he wanted to work at the Pentagon, and he got it all done because of me.
Jerry, as I was reading your book, you took us to a place that anyone who wasn't there couldn't fathom. It just
Mm.
like it's fiction. Like I can't even,
Yeah,
for
I agree.
a variety of reasons, I can't wrap my head around the insanity.
I agree with you.
Did you wake up every day and thank God you were still here on the earth? Like, was it that
No,
basic?
no, no, it wasn't that. There is no God there.
Hmm.
And you come to that realization quite quickly. The only came to me later on that the only God that that made sense, whether color didn't make a difference, religion didn't make a difference, language didn't make a difference, cultural background didn't make a difference, whether you were good or you were bad didn't make a difference. The difference was that the angel of death would accept you no matter what. That portal to eternity was open for everyone who was welcome. It's like everybody come to you're welcome here. Come here. Come and rest for eternity. That was the only angel that was there. And it came to pass that we had a blood oath, and our blood oath was, you hold the line, no man left behind. I regret to have one life to give for my brothers and my country. And if things go wrong, I'll meet you in Heaven's Cafe. Heaven's Cafe was our way of believing that that's where we would wind up on a pristine beach of white sand in an open air cabana with girls in hula hoops and no tops and barefoot serving us iced drinks, Mai Tais with little umbrellas. It's crazy, but that was our concept of the hereafter. So we would say, "See you in Heaven's Cafe" if it goes south. And that's what we would say it every time. We had a new member join our group, and he came one day and he said to me, "Is Heaven's Cafe real?" That's what he says to me.
Wow.
Yeah, is Heaven's Cafe real? I said, "As real as you want it to be."
Mhm.
I said, "What's real? What's not real?" He says to me, "Well, no." He says to me, I think it's okay." I said, you realize if you meet me in Heaven's Cafe, we're dead."
Yeah.
He says, "Yeah, but that's okay." And that was the attitude. You weren't, it reduced the fear. It made you focus on the team. If you would die for your brother, that was okay. Whatever you had to do, you had to do. But it wasn't, the fear was in doing it, not once you encounter it. You have no fear when in a panic, there's no fear.
Right. You
When,
just
when you know,
act.
when you know, when you're defending yourself, there's no fear. If someone is attacking you, you fight back. You can't say I'm afraid of fighting the guy. Either you take the punishment or you don't take the punishment. It was there. You're being flown out. Maybe there was anticipation of being flown out to the mission, but once the mission was in progress, once our feet touched the ground and we were in motion, there's no more fear. You're following orders. You have a job to do. That's the job. Yeah, it's existential for sure. But what am I going to do? Run away? You can't run away. You have six members of your team. What are you going to leave them go?
Jerry, what was it like to be, so you have the anticipatory fear, obviously, and you could drive yourself crazy with that, right? Being afraid. And
Right.
then you had to have some, not had to, definitely you had to be shocked by what you were seeing going on. So you're terrified, you're in shock, and you still have to act. What happened? What's that transformation like?
Well, you have to remember that everything there that happened, no matter what it was abnormal.
Mhm.
abnormal to the life we lead now.
Okay.
Nothing is the same. You
Right.
get up in the morning, you go to sleep. No matter what you did there, it was always something that was off the charts. When the abnormal becomes normal, you don't notice it, right? You get into an accident, you lose a leg, big shock. You get a prosthetic, and you're walking around. Well, now everyone is crazy. Your family, your
Right.
children. But once everyone gets used to it, the abnormal becomes normal. There, the abnormal was death. You come across a body,
Yeah.
come across another body, come across a body you know, come across a guy, a body he's living and he's asking you to keep him alive, and he dies in your hands. When all of that happens a number of times, that's abnormal. But you see another dead body. So he's another, that's that. So he's a casual, he's not a victim, he's not a casualty of war, he's not a victim of war, he's a casualty. That's what we do for a living. We could have, and we say that could be, we used to pass by and sometimes we see the dead being carted away. That could have been us. We say it. We used to say, boss, if you would have gone right instead of left, that would have been us. I said, but I didn't go right. I went left. And that was the joke. That was the humor, the gallows humor, you might want to say, of us being together. We could laugh, but the laughter was always something dark. It wasn't something we would laugh at ourselves. We would laugh at the army, of course, well, and our commanding officers. That was funny. Everything was funny because everybody was a caricature. We
Right.
were caricatures of
Right.
ourselves.
Right.
You read the book, you see we're all. I made us all into characters, but we weren't characters. We were serious guys, and we went up against serious people. And even in one of the confrontations, the guy says to me, and I say to him, "Well, we don't, we're harder than we look. We don't look like much, but we're harder than we look." And we were serious guys. I mean, we were armed to the teeth. We could take out a small city with what we owned.
Right.
But that's not who we were. We were just boys. I was 23. I was the oldest, right? These guys were 19 and 20, and here we're at with these massive weapons, and firing and getting fired at, and taking helicopters and people walking out of helicopters. Man, Patricia, the abnormal becomes normal. You accept it. It's all a shock. It comes to you when you least expect it. And today it comes to me like I would go to sleep, couldn't sleep. Couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep there. You needed something. We were always exhausted,
Yeah.
always exhausted. And you needed amphetamines to keep us awake. And you needed something to put us to sleep. And that followed me home. And so, and the only thing that kept me awake was the next day. What are we going to do the next day? Where we're going to go? Because you had a map. This is the route. But it was wrong. The map was wrong. How am I supposed to know? It's given to me by Army intelligence, Army logistics, saying, here's where it is. And you go there and there's nothing there. And you're dropped off in the middle of nowhere, and the guy's not coming back
Right.
for another day. So everything was something. There was nothing that ever went right. No plan. And I always say, I came up with the concept of a God particle. And no matter what we're going to do, there's always going to be somebody. The devil's hand was on my shoulder whenever decision I made. It was choose right or left. The devil was in both hands. It was like heads or tails, but both were the devil. And nothing went right because the enemy was waiting for us. The enemy expected us. And so they
Here
were
you
ready.
are. This is an interesting question I hadn't thought about. You're desensitized, but you're not. You're still your senses are heightened. Your awareness, like you
Mm.
realize that somebody else made a mistake that's going to cost you or some of your men their lives. Was your reaction, this stupid idiot put me in this position? Or you just said, you know what? We're in this position. We just need to move forward.
Well,
How much
two
time
things.
did you spend being pissed off at,
No, you have a second.
yeah,
Well, you don't have much time. The enemy you're in enemy territory.
right,
We're standing alone. We're six guys. We're alone. We don't have an army behind us. We don't have artillery. We're not an army of 200 guys. We're six guys going to do on a mission, an extraction. We're loaded to the teeth. And nobody's supposed to know we're there. And we land in a place, and we're supposed to be landing, let's say, a mile away. We're 10 miles away.
oof, Yeah.
Now, so of course we laugh. Motherfuckers. She said, well, we should have known that. I said, how am I supposed to know? Here's the map. You read the map. I read the map. We went over this for 100 times. We called them. This is where it is. It's not here. What are you going to call them up and let everybody know where you are? You can do a radio transmission in the middle of enemy territory? You know what? You take a deep breath and you move forward. Get the hell out where you are and start moving towards the destination and hope you don't encounter the enemy. And sometimes we did. And we weren't, there were a lot of units that were search and destroy. S&D they call it, search and destroy. You hear it all the time. It's,
Right.
it's a common denomination. There were units that went out to find the enemy and kill them. Those guys weren't me. That wasn't who we were. But that's what, and we met these guys, and these guys were serious guys. I mean, more serious than we were. We went because there was something that my general wanted. There was a prison camp. They wanted that prisoner. There was treasure. He wanted that treasure. There was, these things just happened, and so we went to do that. But we didn't go to find the enemy and kill the enemy. And the Marines, once we ran into a Marine unit, we were coming back from a mission. How many men did you kill? How many blood trails? He was going to take notes. Because that's what meant to them bodies and blood trails. Listen, you think about the military, right? Okay, you're out in the military and you go up, you're in a secluded area in the jungle and you go into what's Allied territory. This is secured territory. Hill 27, Hamburger Hill, you read about all this. And you go up and you figure that, okay, now we're coming back from a mission. The helicopter lets us off there because they don't want to travel at night. We get there, we're going to wait there the day. We meet people that have beards, have ears around their neck,
Ooh.
have scrotums hanging from the tent, have body parts. We went up to a hill, there were hands sticking out from all the way up the hill. Welcome, waving us hello, just a hand. Now, I mean, you talk about being in La La Land, you talk about being in horror land, and this is where you're walking into. I didn't expect to walk out. It wasn't the enemy. This is Allied forces. This is Americans.
Did you
Well,
fear for your life from them?
yes, I did. You have an incident in the book whereby I went to get an agent that went rogue, and he wasn't responding, and so go find him. Now he could have sent in, but he couldn't send in a Marine division to find his own people. He didn't want that on his record.
Right,
He
right.
sent us in to find his own people. What I found was beyond. I mean, we were already veterans, but it even surprised me, these guys. I mean, they were crazy. I mean, we weren't as crazy. We were nuts, but not like that. We didn't take body parts. I wouldn't do any of that. And when there came times that was sort of like going to happen, I sat down once and I said, listen, guys, we're going to go home one day. We can't take that with us. Don't do it. We're not going to do it.
Hmm.
Don't let me see you doing it.
Hmm.
If you do it, you're out of my group. I'm not going to have it. We can't do those things. Those things are not for us. I said, let those boys, because you're sort of like a camaraderie. If everybody's doing it, you do it.
You jump
They
in,
invite,
right?
they invite you to do it. No, because eventually I came to the conclusion we're going to go home. If we go home, how do you live with that? You have to live with believe me when I tell you, it's hard to live with what I know.
Hmm.
If I did that, I have to live with that. I saw enough to last me 10 lifetimes. I don't need to do that. But there were guys who did it. There were guys who lived it. And then they came back and they couldn't live with themselves. They came back and no amount of therapy will help you. When you're a ghoul, and you're a monster, if you want to follow that route, then you become a ghoul and a monster. You can't eat human flesh and then say I didn't do it. You had guys with all these ceremonies, secret organizations inside the military by themselves. Like our group was a little secret group. We had Heaven's Cafe, big deal. But these guys had serious stuff They would do serious things in order to become a member of their group, Marines especially. I mean, and they were, and God bless the Marines and how many times they saved everybody. I'm the first to say it. I stood beside some of the greatest Americans it was my pleasure to meet. I'll never meet people like that again. Someone who I never knew would lay down his life for me. Someone I never knew would carry me halfway across the field and die in the process, and then another one of his buddies would come and pick me up and carry me the distance. Where do you meet people like that? Maybe in the police, the firefighters, you meet. But I'm just I'm going to meet some guy like that in synagogue. I mean,
Right.
never going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never going to happen. You don't meet people like this. So you're in a position and you're part of it. So you're on a train. You can't get off the train. Your destination is the end of your tour. You get on the train, you bought the ticket. The ticket starts here and it ends when you go home. Now you can go home on a plane. You can go home on a plane in a seat, or home on a plane in a stretcher, or home on a plane in a box. But you're going to go home eventually.
I want to ask you, Jerry, which we had a little bit of a pre-interview for the sake of the audience, that we talked about a few things that opened up some can of worms. I'm going to ask you, you were wounded there.
Yes,
And when you were wounded, why didn't they send you home when you were wounded?
I wouldn't go.
Uh,
Uh-uh. 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 I wasn't leaving the team. You know,
oh,
nobody.
you had to function
Yeah,
with an injury. You had to continue to function with
I
an injury.
didn't care.
Okay.
They'd have to kill me in order to get me out of there. They had to put me in a hospital in a coma to get me out of there. I wasn't leaving my boys. There's no way. How could I? How could you? Would you? You're in a bad position with your daughter, and she's 10 years old, and there's a fire. You're going to leave her behind to save
Of
yourself?
course not. Right.
You're going to go back into the fire to get her, even if it kills you both. Does so? Why did you go back in? You were burned to a crisp, and your daughter died anyway. If I didn't go, how would I live with myself? If I didn't go, I'd kill myself anyway. I had to save her. There's no way. So you have that. That's the meaning of brotherhood.
Hmm.
Where's your meaning? The meaning is you can't leave them. You don't want to leave them. You have. I saw something similar. There was someone awarded the Medal of Honor. A Marine was awarded the Medal of Honor. I think it was Nixon who gave it. No, Nixon. No, I think it was Johnson who gave it to him. And there was a ceremony, and in the ceremony they were interviewing him, like the newscaster was interviewing him, and they saying to him, you're a hero. What do you think? He says, I'm not a hero. The hero were my buddies who died. And what are you going to do now? He says, I'm going back. I'm going back to my unit. He was a guy that was seriously wounded,
Mm.
went into the hospital, came out of the hospital, given the Medal of Honor. He's going back to stand with his unit.
And you understood that. Yeah. Hmm.
And that was the one time I saw someone who thought like me.
Yeah.
And in other words, people say, I don't believe you. I mean, yeah, I understand you don't believe me. I understand you don't believe it's true. I don't believe it's true either. And people tell stories. And one guy was telling a story. We were in a seminar, not a seminar, I would say therapy group, and he was telling his story. So after it was over, we were having coffee and an intermission. He said, "Man, he's full of shit." I said, "Listen to me. Anybody who wants to make up a story, even you, make up a story about Vietnam. I say this to you. I say it to anybody I talk to, anybody listening. I say it to you. Make up a story about Vietnam. I want you to put in all the worst stuff you can think of. Murder, suicide, decapitation, cannibalism. I don't care. You put it in there. You present this story to me and say to me, Jerry, this is what happened to me. I say, oh, I believe it's true. I believe it's true because everything that happened that you write already happened there.
Hmm.
You can't think of anything more than what I saw. No matter what you say, I believe it. People say, well, Jerry, how could that happen? How could that be? I said, how could it be? I don't know how it could be. I don't know how I could be here talking to you. I said, I can only tell you my version. This is my story. I'm not saying it's the story. I'm not asking you to believe it. I didn't write the book and tell you, hey, I'm not going on a pulpit and preaching God to you with this book. So here, this is one guy's experience. You read all these snippets on the internet about people responding about what they were, or people that get the Medal of Honor or the Silver Star or the Bronze Star. You read the dialogue of what these guys did. You know, it's not even human. I mean, I saw acts of, it's not possible. Mundo, Superman, acts of extraordinary mutants, the mutants, those
Yeah.
pic, that you can't believe that a boy there isn't even a book by who wrote a book. He was a lieutenant, and he was like 5 feet tall or
Mhm.
4 feet 7, and he won every medal in the book. He had the Bronze Star, Silver Star, Medal of Honor. And he was just this little guy, a phenomenal soldier, but he was like 4 feet 9 or something. And you could say, you can make up this story, except there's documentation. They show pictures of him with the medals. They show him pictures like doing what he had to do. I mean, it was where normal people were put into abnormal situations and expected to conform. Those who conformed excelled. Many died, but there were some that really made it through. They ran into fire and they survived the fire.
Mhm.
They were blown up. In the VA, I go to the VA. I go to the VA twice a year for my checkups. I meet, sitting in the waiting room, and you meet people. I met one guy. He was a rocket landed, hit the tank, bounced off the tank, and came to him and blew him up,
Wow.
blew his legs off. And he was standing there with a rifle. They blew his legs off. I mean, I said, the rocket ricochet? He said, yeah. How come the rocket didn't blow up? He says, you're asking me? He said, it just came, it didn't hit the tank. It came down and slid across the mud and hit me, and it exploded when it came to me. I wasn't anywhere near the place. Weird, weird. But try to get try to get his head around being injured. And here he is. He's sitting there, a nice guy. We were laughing at he was telling me army stories, and I was telling him also, yeah. And we were laughing because it's funny. I mean, even that incident is funny. I said, so you are a de facto injury. You weren't supposed to be injured. Why the hell were you injured? It's your fault. He says, yeah, that's what the Army told me. We were laughing at the idea of the concept of it all. The concept of it all. It's crazy. Look, Agent Orange. You know, even I don't understand it. Agent Orange was a chemical that was known to be the most toxic substance created as an antidefilant. It was never anything as toxic as that. And the enemy was hiding in the jungles. They couldn't, if you sent men into the jungles, they all died. Because these guys had all these tunnels and everything. So what did they do? They sprayed the forests. They sprayed everything. But a plane that's traveling 150 miles an hour, right, and is spraying the spray, and the spray is coming out in a cone.
Right.
It's coming out in a cone, and the cone is spreading over a mile or
Hmm.
2 miles, and there's a wind that brings it 5 miles,
Hmm.
right? And they're half a mile away from an encampment, where we're stationed, and they're spraying this chemical like it was like, it was like confetti. I mean, and did we know that we were sleeping under Agent Orange, that we were being contaminated? Did we know? Did we? What came to me, and I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know about Agent Orange. I mean, I was in my own world. I didn't have nothing to do with that. But when I was doing the research, and I saw what they did, and I remember once we had gone into an area about a month before, and it was heavily forested area, and there was I remember coming back from that area, and I remember it, and we went back to those coordinates in another mission. There was nothing there. It was an empty field. It was an empty field.
Wow.
And I was saying, I'm looking at the coordinates. I said, wait a minute. This is jungle. No, man, this is not jungle. This can't be. This can't be where it is. And that's where it was. They had destroyed an entire forest with this chemical. The only time, and I didn't know that's true.
Hmm.
If the coordinates were the same exact coordinates, and there was a forest once, there was a forest. That's like I'm going home to my house, and you
Yeah.
go to the house, and your house is no
No
longer
longer
there.
there. Yeah.
You say to your
Very
husband,
strange.
hey, listen, Manny, I'm home, and something's wrong. The house is gone. He'll say to you, he's in his office. What do you mean the house is gone? Are you crazy?
Yeah.
I'm saying the house is gone. There's no house here.
That's how it felt. Crazy making.
It was all crazy. Here, look.
Jerry, you wrote extensively about just moving on a little bit about the debauched behavior of some of your fellow
Mhm.
soldiers in the Vietnamese
Right.
locals, drugs, prostitution, a
Of
lot of
course.
behavior that wouldn't have been tolerated anywhere else. I don't understand in the sense that I absorb, but I understand, or at least have been told, that this was a way to blow off steam, relax the stress out there. This is combating the stress, if you will. Did you become desensitized to that also?
Well,
The
once again, the abnormal becomes normal.
Mhm.
What did I know of bordellos?
Right.
What did I know of prostitution? I
What
don't know
any of these boys knew of all this.
exactly,
Right.
but it wasn't a matter of fact of a way to relax. It was a way to calm the other that took possession of you. It was a way to you don't know what tomorrow would bring. So if you had an opportunity, live for the day. So VD was rampant.
Mhm.
I mean, you people would go like on a Monday morning or any morning at 5 a.m. There was a lineup outside the infirmary for people who came down with every venereal disease you can think of, and it didn't matter. People came down with VD. I would say maybe 5 times a month.
Ooh,
Yeah, because they were banging these girls without protection.
right.
I mean, they were just they were trying to make they were being run by, you know, there was no real government there in the war zones. There was no real government. We didn't have a police force like a police force. The military police was the police force. So you had to understand that everything went on, and it's all these girls and all the bars and all the markets, the black markets, were all run by the criminal enterprise, run by the they said the Viet Cong, but run by these boys who weren't part of the North Vietnamese army, weren't part of the South Vietnamese army, weren't part of the Viet Cong. They were just boys with nothing to do, and they ran these girls and they ran these operations, and he did it with violence. They used violence as their force, and I write about what happened to me and those boys and the violence that I never saw it coming. How could you see that coming? But that's who ran Vietnam in the cities. There was no, and the cities were kept clean by the MPs, and the MPs were on this payroll of the criminals. So you went in there, you better act properly. You don't start up with any of these people. They were protected by our own people. Now, a good example of that is that American money was not allowed. So when you went to Vietnam, if you had American money, you had to give it in, and they gave you what they called military payment certificates.
Okay.
Looked like Monopoly money, exactly the same size as Monopoly
Interesting.
money, and
Interesting.
it had the same amount of value as the money that you gave them. Now, the Vietnam economy worked on MPC, which was American dollars. So they could go and they do what they want with it, and we go into the cities and we would trade MPC, and they would come back, and the people who had all this MPC would trade it in, and all the prostitutes, of course, had MPC. So this one unit near us, the commander decides of the base, the entire base, ours included, he's going to change payment certificates, and the old payment certificates MPC will not be allowed, will not be honored, and only if you have new payment certificates. Now here's these girls provided a service, got paid for the service, fair and square, and now he's going to make all this money worthless,
Oh my
right?
goodness. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, oh my goodness is right. So, and remember, you have press everywhere. I mean, Vietnam was like, I don't know how to explain it. It was a stupid war, but there was press everywhere. Press people were walking around. And so what happened? 1,000 prostitutes showed up at the gate. in the middle of the night, screaming and yelling and banging. What is he going to do? What is he going to do? He's going to shoot them?
Right.
Can't arrest them. They're civilians.
Right.
So the commander of that base, the commander of that base had to make a decision. Either he if it gets out to the press that that's what he did, that he injured all these civilians, he would be front page news in the New York Times. Even that alone never hit the papers. It was suppressed. I know what happened. This was a joke. We were laughing about it. We went out to see all these girls screaming and yelling. What the hell's going on? Is it an enemy attack? No, it's all these screaming Vietnamese women. All these women screaming because the money was no good. He rescinded. He backed down. Smartest thing he ever did. Saved his career.
Mhm.
Because you can't just tell these people, because he wanted to do away with prostitution. He wanted to do away with the bars. He thought he would, if he made the MPC no good, nobody would take it anymore. But the reverse happened. You can't stop, and it was illegal to go into town. It wasn't legal.
Oh, so you were sneaking out?
Sneaking out is not the word. In every company, in our company, we had a guy, one of the smartest guys I ever met. He looked like Eddie Murphy, tall, the skin the color of milk chocolate, big smile, smart as a whip, and he was a company orderly. Now he worked for the captain, and you came in, you went out, everything went through the company orderly, and under him was a private who did the typing or whatever, but he ran the day to day. He was a staff sergeant. He was a lifer. He wasn't there forever, but he was going to go leave the army. He was going to go into business. I was going to go into business with him. I thought he was so smart. I never met a guy so smart. Believe me. So he had a thing going for $2, $2, 2 MPC. You pay him 2 MPC. He checks you out when you go to do a bed check, right? You're in bed. $2 to go into town by truck, and $1 and free return. How many people went in every night? Everybody.
Everybody.
He was making hundreds of dollars every day.
Right.
And I paid him, and everybody paid him. You wanted weed? All you want. He had the weed. You went to him, he ran the concession. This was the price. Not overly charged. And here's a guy who never went out on missions. He was safe.
Yeah.
He was a charm. He lived a charmed life. I said, let me just touch you before I go. Bring me luck, you know. Let me rub that color on me. Because he was so smart. He was able to get around everything. They couldn't get him. They couldn't pin him down. And he had everything. He had everybody under his thumb. Everybody was paying him for something. That's how smart he was. Amazing, eh? And in the middle of a war zone, people are dying. And here's this guy, and he's running his own shop,
Right.
so to speak.
The whole enterprise he's got going on.
Imagine imagine what he could do in civilian life.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, so I thought to myself, whoa, this guy is smarter than me. I mean, whoa, look at how entrepreneurial he is. So I said to him, when you leave, I'm gonna. And here's a guy I went on a mission. I came back from the mission. I went to check into my unit after I came back. And where was he? He was dead. He died in the mess hall at night, drinking coffee. A rocket hit him. Blew everything up and blew him up with it.
Wow.
I can tell you, if anything hit me hard and illuminated my mortality, that was it. If he could die, everybody was susceptible. How could he die? He was not even, it didn't make, I went to sleep. How could it be possible? I didn't believe he was dead. It was impossible that a man was immune to death. He was able to escape everything. Here he was, he died drinking coffee. It was a good death, but still. But that's Vietnam. Everyone died. You take a look at the roster of the dead: privates, corporals, specialists, sergeants, captains, lieutenants, colonels, generals. Everyone died there. Nobody was immune. Everybody was being killed. Was a crazy place. Nobody was.
Was the countdown to the day you'd be going home, was that encouraging or anxiety provoking? Did you reach a point
No,
you didn't want to leave, if that makes sense?
no. I had a tour. My tour was up in a year.
Hmm.
So I had a poster, and a guy was, and everybody had their own posters. One poster was a woman, and it was 100, and there were little squares, 100, 365, 365 days. And I had a poster of a man urinating into a bottle, and the bottle had 365 days. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So I had a
Wow.
pen, and I would be coloring in every day. So I would go away for 5 days. I would be coloring up, and I was watching the bottle fill up.
Hmm.
Not that it had any meaning, but it just showed me. And when you got to let's say a week or two left, when people had like a week left or a month left, they would walk around, and for no reason, they'd walk and they'd shout into your ear, "Short,"
Yeah. Okay.
which meaning they had like they were getting out.
Hmm.
Short. So you would be in a car, you'd be walking down the road or something, and then some guy would be driving by in a Jeep, short, That was his way of telling everybody he was getting out. If he lived through that mission, he would get out because his time was coming up. And generally speaking, if your time was coming close, they didn't send you out. They didn't send
Oh, okay. Okay.
depending on the unit. I'm not going to say everyone, but in my unit for sure. But with me, it was I was in the hospital for quite a while, so it didn't matter. I just exceeded my time there, and I never went back to my unit. I had to get out of there. They wanted to keep me in a mental hospital. I would have never come back.
Right.
I didn't think I would ever come back.
Jerry,
So
how did you feel about then and now? This is kind of about the Vietnamese people.
no feelings at all. I had no good or bad. I mean, the Viet Cong were the enemy. The people, the girls in the streets were the girls in the streets. The shopkeepers were the shopkeepers. And it's like, how did I feel about the army personnel?
Mm, okay.
I had no feelings, good or bad, against any of them. I went out against the enemy. I had to be cognizant of the fact that there were people out to kill me. What difference did it make if they were Vietnamese or Chinese? It had no meaning to me. I have no animosity towards any of them. I just went out with the concept of surviving, and that's all that mattered. Sergeant Greeley used to have a saying in the army, and this is true: the only unfair fight that you'll ever have is the one you lose.
That's an interesting saying. Yeah.
The only saying.
Yeah.
So you doesn't matter what it takes for you to survive. You survive it and then deal with the aftermath.
Jerry, you're 56 years out now, right?
Yeah, about
Yeah, about
56. Yeah.
56 years. Okay. So, you obviously experience post-traumatic stress.
Ugh.
And someone explained to me, a friend of mine who served in Vietnam explained to me that it's not post-traumatic stress disorder. You don't have a disorder. You have post-traumatic stress from a very specific experience or an accumulation of experiences. So you're not a disordered person. You had a very real thing happen to you. So how long after your return did you realize you were having the
I
post-traumatic?
never realized it. I never
Wow.
realized that something was wrong with me. It never occurred to me. It just never occurred to me. They didn't treat you for PTSD, but I was crazy. I was a crazy man. I was. I didn't see it. I didn't know. I thought everybody. Listen, I used to suffer panic attacks there, real panic
Wow.
attacks. I thought it was normal. I thought everybody suffered it. When I went to the VA, by chance, the guy says, the nurse said to me, you should check yourself for PTSD. What PTSD? What are you talking about? I mean, I knew guys that had PTSD and they were going for treatment. Not me.
Hmm.
I had nothing wrong with me. I was operating. I was functional, but I wasn't. I wasn't functioning. I wasn't operational. I wasn't anything. I was crazy. Period. End of the discussion. So the point is that I went finally after a number of sessions, a number of years. It's just go and have yourself checked. So I went checked out, and the doctor came to me and said, "Oh, by the way, you have you suffer from terrible PTSD." And because I didn't sleep. I was waking up in the middle of the night, screaming and yelling, all these terrible thoughts, talking to ghosts walking down the street, seeing ghosts, sitting down and calming. There was never a calm period in my life. I was active 24/7. I mean, how Beverly lived with me, I have no idea. But I mean, I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, go to the gym, come back, then go to work, go do travel. I was everywhere at once. It didn't matter to me. The only thing that she said to me, Jerry, I don't care if you never come home, but you come home Friday night for dinner. One night a week, you have dinner with this family. That's what I demand of you. She put down demands on me, and the demand was, I had this dream in Vietnam. What was my dream? Stupid. I dreamed of that I would return and I would be living in a Norman Rockwell painting.
Mhm.
I'd have a house overlooking a front lawn and a backyard with a swing set,
Mhm.
and a slide and an apple tree, and I had a street lined with trees, and I had a car in the garage, and I had a woman cooking dinner, and I had little kids playing. This was my dream. I got to live that dream. And when we bought the first house, I got up in the morning, I didn't at 4 o'clock, and I stood at the window. I was in a trance. I was looking out at the street. The house was empty, had no furniture, nothing. I was looking at the street. And when Beverly got up, she came over to me. She said, "What's the matter?" I said, "I don't believe it. It's pinched me. I mean, how's this possible? How can it be possible that I bought the house, living in the house, with a girl at my side who loved me, two wonderful little girls, and I had my own business, I was going to go to work, and I'm standing out, looking out at this street, this empty street, tree-lined street, and the thought came to me when I had that dream in overseas. When I thought about overseas, I'm thinking to myself, I almost had tears in my eyes. How did you achieve it? How was it possible? I don't know. I really don't. I have no concept of how I even got there. I have no concept of why I got there. I succeeded. Ask me how, I have no idea. Just the same way I succeeded there. I just got up and I did. I mean, I was in business. It was a very tough business, and I accepted it. And it didn't mean anything because no matter how much stress they put on me, it wasn't enough stress to break me. It broke many men.
Yes.
It put many men under the ground. It put many men under the bank. Not me. Not me. I mean, I could take it. I could take all the punishment they wanted. I was very litigious. I could care less. You know, if a guy looked, and I had a lawyer that was on retainer. So I was able to, and then when I got rid of that business and I opened up a business in New York, I fit right in. People thought I was in business all the time because I was so tough with what I did, but I was honorable.
Mhm.
People, I was fair and I was honorable. People respected me, but I didn't take any nonsense. I mean, and the worst thing someone can do is be rude to me. The worst thing someone could do is tell me what to do. And if you didn't push those buttons, I could take anything you did. You could try and cheat me. I expected it. You know, I settled all differences with negotiation. I never got angry. And I had one time someone said to me, I said, "You're not angry with me?" I said, "No, I expected it." "You expected me?" I said, "Yeah." He says to me, I said, "It's in the price. I expected you to take this." He says, "You actually charge me more." I said, "Yeah, because that's what you do. You want 10% back, so I put 10% more. You charge me, I paid you 10." I said, "Yeah." He said, "What about times I didn't make a claim?" I said, "Oh, I got away with it."
Mhm.
I said, "Whenever you buy from me, there'll always be a 10% in there. But if there's no 10%, there's no claim." I said, "You like to make claims because claims are clean money. It's clean profit." So, so this guy, he understood it. I mean, he ran a $500 million company, for God's sakes. I mean, he was, but it didn't matter to me. What do I care? He was a general. I was a private. Did I care? I could care less about his office and his money and his this. And everyone is trying to impress me. You come to the wrong guy to impress me with wealth,
Right.
impress me with intelligence, impress me with education. You came to the wrong guy.
Right.
I mean, I worked for a man that was a West Point graduate. You can't get any smarter than him. And I got along with him. I can get along with anybody. So I walked into businesses. It didn't matter. I went to sell Yves Saint Laurent.
Yeah.
And my one of my associates said, "Yves Saint Laurent, Jerry, I mean, you're going to sell Yves Saint Laurent?" I said, "Why not?" He says, "Well, how are you going to get an appointment?" I said, "I'm going to walk in." "I'm going to walk in without an appointment?" "Yeah, I'm going to walk in. I'm going to ask for the owner. I want to ask for Eves. I don't know." He said, "Well, Jerry," I said, "Listen, I don't care. I'm going to ask for the
Right.
CEO. I want to speak
Right.
to the CEO. If they see me, they see me. They don't, they don't." But you know what? I walked in and I wound up selling them. Every company I walked into, I sold. And I treated them like I would be talking to you. I could care less. I wasn't intimidated. One guy said to me, well, I'm going to buy 1,000,000 yards. I said, okay, can you finance 1,000,000 yards? He said, try me for 2 million. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
I had the bank behind me. I had as much money as I wanted, but I was very cautious. I was very careful. I wasn't taking drugs. I wasn't on cocaine. There were a lot of guys that I knew that were on cocaine. They gave
Right.
up their businesses
Right.
and they came to me afterwards looking for a job.
So tell me what you feel like your life now and how you feel the years between coming home from, well, everything you experienced there, coming home and where you are today. What are the lessons or the life lessons you want to share with us about having that?
Well, well, Vietnam was a whole different attitude. That's a different man, a different person, a different time. There was no, there was no past, there was no future, only the now. In civilian life, the past has meaning on the present, and the present has meaning on the future.
Mhm.
So you're looking towards the future. So if you have children right away, college fund, education, school, house, all that's car. So the pressure of having a family, that's pressure. What kind of pressure was that on a man like me? I mean, I didn't look at it as pressure. If things went wrong, things went wrong. I had people say to me, Jerry, don't, are you upset? I said, no, I'll make it back. I'll make it back. It's not a problem. I had a problem. I went to the bank. Here's the problem. Here's what happened. What are you going to do, Jerry? I said, I'm not going to do anything. I said, I want you to extend the loan and I'll make it back.
Mhm.
And it was just a matter of like a mission. It's not going to, listen, no one died. No one died. All those things that happen in life, all the things that happen, you're successful in business, you're not successful in business. If no one dies, you're good.
Right. Right.
In my unit, we went out, whatever happened, it didn't matter. If no one died, it was successful. It wasn't that we accomplished anything, just we went out and we came back and no one died. If we were injured, okay, but no one died. The key was to stay alive. And my civilian life was my attitude. No matter what happened, if it didn't affect my family, if my kids didn't get lost, or my kid was injured, it's the end of the world for me.
Right.
My kid was injured. I go crazy because that's the only thing that had meaning. My wife had meaning. My kids had meaning. My business what I did had meaning. Other people, that's their life.
Right.
I can commiserate with sorrow. I can commiserate with grief. I can, but it's not affecting me.
Right.
The politics don't affect me. I don't care about politics. I was in the worst political situation any man could be. I mean, look what my government did to me. So they're talking about Trump. Go ahead, talk about it. Well, what do you, and I have people write me, Trump this, Trump that. I say, don't write current events on my website.
Right.
I'm
Right.
only, I'm an expert in Vietnam. I'm considered an expert in Vietnam. Stay to Vietnam. If you want to compare Vietnam to something that he did, but don't ask me for my opinion of any politician. What I do what I believe in politics has nothing to do with you. I said, you want to change something, go to the vote, do it at the voting booth. Don't do it on my website. There's 1,000 websites out there talking about
We're
Trump.
talking about everything going on. Absolutely.
Yeah, what you and I say. I have one friend. He's a staunch. Up until now, I was pretty much a Democrat, but that's besides the point. But I have one guy who's a staunch Republican. Oh boy, is he conservative, and he's hocking me a China to become a Republican. And I say to him, look, whatever you say, can I convince you to become a Democrat? He said no. So why are you wasting your time? I'm like you.
Yeah.
Our friendship has nothing to do with politics, and I don't want to discuss it with you. You want to tell me what you feel about the current situation? I'll believe you. I'll tell you what I say. I accept what you say. I understand why you say it, and you have to accept what I say, and don't try to convince me to change from a Jew to a Catholic,
Right.
or don't ask me to change to become a Muslim. I said, why would you do that? I'm not going to do it. He said, well, you don't believe in God anyway. I said, that's besides the point.
Yeah.
I said, that my decision is my decision. I don't need someone to tell me what to do.
Right.
Well, my testicles dropped a long time ago. I can make my own decisions. I don't need you. So he laughs. He says to me, okay, and we could stay friends. Otherwise, how can we be friends? And by the way, he's a billionaire, not even a millionaire. And for all his money, he's just a moron. He's just a nice guy, too nice to be true. But to me, he is.
Yeah.
And business, I'm assuming he's very tough, but still,
Yeah.
he's a good friend, you
Jerry,
know.
my work in It's Okay to Be Old is all about aging well, accepting your age.
Okay.
So how does it feel to be 83?
Okay, so here's the end of the result. I didn't come to the end of what it is now.
Yeah.
Patricia, this is the best time of my life. I am living, I tell Beverly every day, I live in paradise.
Hmm.
I get up in the morning, I don't have the business, I don't have the pressure. I'm financially sound. I came back to my first love of writing, so I write every day.
Hmm.
I spend my whole day researching for my next project. I'm working on all these things. I have great interest in what I did. People are telling me it's going to become a movie. I said, okay, find me a produce it, and I'll be glad to have. I had one guy say to me, "How much do you want for it?" A guy came to me, asked me, "How much do you want for it?" I said, "You make an offer." He says, well, what should I do? I said, why don't you research it and tell me what you can make on it? I said, you're not going to make the movie. There's no way you can make this into a movie. It's too complicated. This needs $1 million, $2 million to make a real movie. And you need, in order to get the loan to make the movie, you need a star.
Right.
So you can't make a movie with just anybody. It's not a documentary. This doesn't lend itself to a
Right.
documentary.
Right.
It lends itself to a story. I said, so if you want to find someone to buy this place and spend 3, 4, 5, $10 million on a movie, how much is it going to be worth? What's your commission? I said, you act as an agent. An agent, I don't know when he makes 10%, 20%. I said, so get $5 million, make $1 million.
Hmm.
At the door, they don't give me the money. They give it to you. They make a check out to you. They make it out for $5 million, or $1 million goes to you. It's like a mortgage. I said, so you could sell it. I'm not going to stop you. So don't ask me what I want for it. I want sky, but I will accept less than the sky, but you have to tell me what it's worth. So far, no one's made an offer.
Yeah.
So it's cocktail
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah.
It's
Jerry,
all money.
yeah, in closing, before we it's in the time.
So let me finish. Let me just finish.
Yeah.
I'm not sorry I'm 83. I
No.
earned every year of it.
Yeah.
Every year of
Yeah.
it. It
Yeah.
belongs to me. I'm not giving it back. And if I had to live it all over again, I would. I would make different decisions, but I would.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not marry a different girl. I would certainly not want different children. And I've come to the end of a road where it's like Eden. I wake up in the morning. I'm wake up next to the woman I love. My kids, I'm in good relations with my kids. I don't have to worry about she has me eating on a diet every day, but she makes these wonderful meals. So I have these, and so it's a good life. It's
Hmm.
a life not totally free of stress because I wake up in stress.
Yeah.
I can't help it. I'm just my mind is always spinning. But if it spins on story, it's good. So I write my stories. So what I'm writing you every day is spinning in my head. I
Yeah.
get up in the
Yeah.
morning and this is spinning. Start typing. I go to the computer maybe 4 o'clock in the morning, but the thought came to me, and I'll expand that thought. And by the time I get to, let's say, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, I have a story to post. So that's how I'm writing. So my mind is always spinning. There's always something going on. So like I had a couple hours free. So yesterday I wrote. Yesterday I wrote Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. There you
So
go. A little step ahead.
yeah, yeah. And then I'll write Saturday and Sunday and Monday and Tuesday and working on my project. So I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
I'm hoping that someone will buy the book and put so when I die, my wife will be able to live in luxury. But she's living pretty good now. I
Jerry,
can't do that.
Jerry Glazer, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. A great conversation of great importance that needs to keep going. And for more information about Jerry Glazer and his book, Vietnam Uncensored, 365 Days in a Nightmare, here's the book, which is available on Amazon. And I want to mention that all proceeds of this book go to the Kaufman Fund. It's a wonderful organization based out of St. Louis that provides services for veterans in need. And to communicate with Jerry directly, you can visit his website at www.vietnamjerry, Jerry, and all the usual social media outlets. And I want to thank all of those of you who are listening. I'm Patricia Greenberg, and this is It's Okay to Be Old. For more shows on aging well, please subscribe to this channel. And for more information, feedback, and topic ideas, you can contact me at www.patriciagreenberg.com. Stay well and stay safe. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you so much, Patricia. I appreciate the interview.